In 1945, the biggest villain in history was finally defeated, and the world threw a massive party to celebrate. The bad guys were gone, and everyone assumed we were heading for a happily ever after of peace and friendship. But that warm, fuzzy feeling lasted for exactly 5 minutes, before things got incredibly awkward between the winners. Because only 2 superpowers were left standing, and they had completely opposite operating systems for the planet. In the blue corner, the USA, representing capitalism, free markets, voting, and buying way too much stuff you don't need. In the red corner, the USSR, representing communism, equality, state control, and absolutely no leaving the club. They both wanted to save the world, but unfortunately, they wanted to paint it in 2 very different colors. Welcome to the Cold War, or, as I like to call it, a 40-year game of extreme global paintball. Round 1, Europe. While everyone else was cleaning up the rubble, Stalin started painting the map red really fast. Poland, Hungary, Romania. He was collecting countries like Pokémon cards, and nobody in the West could stop him. Winston Churchill looked at the map and famously said, "An iron curtain has descended across the continent." America completely freaked out. They thought, if we don't stop him now, he's going to paint the whole planet. So they came up with a strategy called containment. Basically, you can keep what you have, but don't touch anything else. Their weapon wasn't guns yet, it was cash. The Marshall Plan threw billions of dollars at Western Europe to keep them blue. It was basically a massive bribe. Hey, do you like bread and rebuilding your cities? Stay capitalist and we'll pay for it. Stalin forbade his friends from taking the money, which, as you can imagine, made him very popular at parties. But there was a glitch in the red matrix called Berlin. Half of the city was still blue, deep inside Soviet territory. Stalin hated this glitch. So in 1948, he blockaded the city. No trains, no trucks, and absolutely no food allowed. He thought the West would just give up and leave. But America looked at the blockade and said, "Challenge accepted." They launched the Berlin Airlift. For an entire year, planes landed every 3 minutes, dropping food, coal, and supplies. One pilot even dropped chocolate bars with little parachutes for the kids. It was a massive PR win for the blue team. Stalin realized he couldn't stop the sky train without shooting down planes and starting World War III. So he grumpy quit and lifted the blockade. It was the first major victory for the blue team in Europe. To secure the win, the West formed a club called NATO, basically a no-Stalins allowed fort with lots of guns. The Soviets responded with the Warsaw Pact, which was exactly like NATO, except membership was mandatory. But the red team had a secret weapon, spies. While America was celebrating, the Soviets were busy copy-pasting their homework. In 1949, the Soviets detonated their first nuke. Suddenly, America's monopoly on the apocalypse was officially over. People started practicing duck and cover, pretending that a wooden school desk would save them from a nuclear fireball. Both sides started building thousands of nukes. Enough to destroy the planet 50 times over, just to be safe. This led to mutually assured destruction. If you shoot, I shoot, and everyone dies. It was a global Mexican standoff. Then, the server crashed. In 1949, China turned red. The biggest population on Earth had just joined Team Communism. America looked at the map and completely lost its mind. The containment strategy had a massive leak in Asia. They formulated the domino theory. They believed if one Asian country falls to communism, they will all fall over. First domino, Korea. In 1950, the North invaded the South, and the Cold War suddenly got extremely hot. The US jumped in to push them back. They almost won, until China joined the chat with 1 million soldiers. For 3 years the map went up and down like a yo-yo, but nobody could actually win the game. Eventually, they got tired and just drew a line in the middle. The war never technically ended, it's just paused. Meanwhile, the Soviets decided to flex in space. They launched Sputnik, a metal ball that terrified the Western world. Americans thought, if they can put a beeping ball over our heads, they can definitely drop a bomb on them. Then the Soviets sent a dog named Laika. She was a very good girl, but sadly she didn't have a return ticket. Then Yuri Gagarin became the first human in space. The Soviets were winning the tech race, and NASA was embarrassed, or American rockets kept exploding on the launch pad. It looked like the blue team had forgotten how to do science. So JFK made a crazy promise. We are going to the moon, not because it's easy but because we are losing badly. The US poured unlimited money into the Apollo program. Failure was not an option, mostly because of the ego. In 1969, America finally landed on the moon. They planted a flag, played golf, and officially won the space race. But back on Earth, trouble was brewing. Fidel Castro turned Cuba red right in America's front yard. The CIA tried to invade with the Bay of Pigs operation, which was a disaster and a total facepalm moment. To protect Cuba, the Soviets secretly shipped nukes there. Now, the apocalypse was parked 90 miles from Florida. This was the Cuban Missile Crisis. For 13 days, the entire world held its breath and waited for the end. It was a naval stare down. One wrong move, one itchy trigger finger, and it would have been game over for humanity. Luckily, the Soviets blinked first. They took the missiles home, and we all survived to fight another day. Then came the nightmare, Vietnam. America jumped in to stop another domino, but they underestimated the jungle. Fighting a guerrilla war against invisible enemies in a dense forest turned out to be nearly impossible. Back home, Americans watched the war on TV and hated it. The hippie movement was born, demanding peace now. Eventually, America had to pull out. Vietnam turned red. It was a massive, painful loss for the blue team. The Soviets felt confident. They thought the future was red, but they weren't paying attention to their bank account. They decided to invade Afghanistan to prop up a communist government. It was basically their version of Vietnam. The US secretly supplied the rebels with missiles. The Soviets spent 10 years fighting ghosts in the mountains. This war drained their economy. Painting the map red is expensive, especially when you forget to feed your people. While Americans were buying microwaves and VCRs, Soviet citizens were waiting in line for 6 hours to buy toilet paper. The West had a secret weapon, culture. Blue jeans, rock music, and Coca-Cola were smuggling freedom across the border. Young people in the East didn't want a revolution. They just wanted to wear Levi's and listen to the Beatles. In 1987, Ronald Reagan stood up in Berlin and famously shouted, "Mr. Gorbachev, tear down this wall!" But the system was already cracking. Chernobyl exploded, exposing exactly how broken and secretive the Soviet Union had become. Gorbachev tried to fix things with glasnost and perestroika, which means openness and restructuring. But giving people a little bit of freedom is dangerous. Once they tasted it, they immediately wanted all of it. In Poland, the Solidarity movement demanded change. The cracks in the Iron Curtain were spreading fast. Then, the accident happened. A confused East German official announced on TV that borders were open. Immediately, he made a mistake, but the people didn't care. Thousands rushed the Berlin Wall, demanding to let through. The guards were outnumbered and confused. They had two choices: start a massacre or open the gates. They opened them. It was a massive party. People took sledgehammers to the symbol of oppression, and the Iron Curtain crumbled overnight. It was a reverse domino effect. Czechoslovakia, Romania, Bulgaria. Everyone quit Team Red to join the West. Gorbachev looked around and realized he was the president of a club that had no members left. Hardliners tried a military coup to save the USSR, but the people stood on tanks and said no thanks. On Christmas Day 1991, the Soviet flag was lowered for the last time. The Soviet Union deleted itself. The map turned almost entirely blue. The Cold War was over, and the US was the undisputed champion. The ultimate symbol of victory? A McDonald's opening right in Moscow. Capitalism tasted like Big Macs and fries. But wait, one giant red spot remained. China watched the USSR collapse and decided to take notes. They decided to keep the party control but open the economy. Basically, communism with a lot of cash. This hybrid model allowed them to survive and grow into the massive economic superpower we see today. So today, the map isn't just blue versus red. It's a complicated mess of trade deals and internet cables. The ideologies have changed. Now it's authoritarian capitalism versus democratic capitalism, but the rivalry remains. Of course, there are still a few holdouts. North Korea is still playing by the 1950s rules, isolated and angry. But looking back, the Cold War shaped everything. Our borders, our technology, and why we went to the moon. The internet you are using to watch this? Originally designed so the military could communicate after a nuclear strike. We survived the most dangerous staring contest in human history without blowing up the planet. But with tensions rising again, are we starting a sequel? Or just a reboot with better graphics? Which team would you have picked in the 80s? Let us know in the comments below. And if you want to avoid a history exam failure, please subscribe. It really helps our economy. Thanks for watching. Click here to see how one sandwich started World War I. See you next time.